Let's jump into it. Coinbase Global, America's first public company, the crypto white knight. They're launching a new token launch platform for public token offerings that will allow investors to basically invest into a token before it's public on the exchange, right? So it's allowing retail to be VCs. Now, they announced that this platform allows verified users to participate in the token sales before the tokens are listed on the exchange. So you do have to be verified. And like I said, the first sale is slated for the Monad Labs token. The symbol is going to be MON. And this is scheduled between November 17th through 22nd. Okay. So let's go through some, and again, Basejunkie, if you got any questions per usual, feel free to cut me off and ask. So some key structural features. So the payment is going to be in USDC, has to be in USDC. And it's a 1 week window for a purchase request. And then they have this allocation algorithm that basically prioritizes smaller buyers first. So it aims for fair distribution among users rather than whale dominance, which is cool. And then you also have issuer lockups. So tokens by the issuing team cannot be sold for 6 months, right? And users who dump within 30 days may receive lower priority in future sales. So I like how they're kind of policing this and putting rules and regulations. So basically, let's go over how it works, and then we're going to talk about how it's different from the Binance Launchpad, because Binance has been doing this for a while, but there are some key differences that I think Coinbase is doing a lot better, actually. So the first thing is the user must have a fully verified Coinbase account with KYC done to participate. During the sale window, the user submits a purchase request in USDC. So like, for example, I like to buy these tokens. You have to have the USDC ready. After the window closes, the Coinbase's allocation algorithm distributes the tokens. And like I said, smaller orders are going to get filled first, and then the large ones until supply is exhausted. That makes me think like, okay, if you want to buy a large amount, it might be smarter to do a couple of small orders first, or at least some small orders first, but I don't know how they're going to be allowing that. Like, are you going to be able to only do a couple orders? That is the only thing I want more clarity on. Like, let's say I want to buy $1 million worth total, and I put in an order for 1,000 and another one for 10K, just so that those get filled first versus doing the whole 1 million. But I don't know if you're going to be able to just do it all in one tranche. So that's to be determined, or discovered, I should say. It might be determined already. Next thing, tokens are credited once the sale is concluded and the token is eventually listed. Then you have the post-sale rules that we talked about. So if the issuers try to dump earlier, if issuers flip or users flip too quickly, penalties are reduced for future access. Okay, so now, how is this different from Binance's Launchpad? Basically, Binance has been around for years, like we said, and it's kind of like the go-to launch platform, powered by a centralized exchange as well. And to participate in Binance Launchpad sale, you have to hold and stake BNB versus USDC. This is Binance's native token, and the more BNB you hold, the more lottery tickets you get, and your ticket count is based on your average BNB balance during a specific snapshot period. Okay, so it's more like a lottery system. So that setup automatically favors big BNB whales. It rewards people with larger holdings and doubles as a built-in flywheel for the BNB token itself. All right, so the allocation is either done through a lottery or pro rata sales system, but historically the largest BNB holders end up with the biggest allocations. And Coinbase is, on the other hand, they're taking a totally different approach. Like I said, there's no native token requirement. Will this change when and if there's a base token launch? I'm not sure, but for right now, it's USDC, and there's no staking involved, right? You just need that verified account to be in good standing, and then you pay with your USDC and you're good. Now, here's where things get interesting, guys. Coinbase's allocation model is bottom up, not top down. So instead of rewarding the biggest buyer first, like I said, the algorithm starts with the small purchases. So I've already went through that. This is a big deal because it flattens the playing field, and it gives smaller retail participants a fair shot, and it avoids the typical whale dominance that you see on platforms like Binance. So I think in theory, this should create broader token distribution, fewer mega allocations concentrated in a handful of wallets. Another difference is cadence and transparency. So Coinbase plans to host roughly 1 token sale per month, and every token launched through their platform will be added to its official listings roadmap. Okay. And the market will likely interpret this as a listing guarantee. And we all know about the Coinbase effect. Like, a lot of tokens just pump when they're going to be listed on Coinbase. Binance, by contrast, runs its Launchpad based on deal flow. So there's no set schedule. And while most Launchpad tokens do get listed on Binance eventually, there's no formal promise that they will. It's more like implied than guaranteed. So
question here, because I know with token listings on Base, like with the whole Base app, and like Jesse's been very vocal about how other sexes have these exorbitant listing fees. They want token supply, they want X amount of dollars, all that stuff. They're saying that they're not going to charge on Coinbase, and they want to list everything. So do you think there will still be official Coinbase listings if every token is going to be tradable on the Coinbase app?
that's actually a great question. So yes, I do still think it's going to be Coinbase listings, because you're going to have, like, for example, every project isn't going to want to do the crowdfunding route. And a lot of projects have already raised money and it's too late, but they still just haven't launched their tokens. You have a lot of projects. Raul Paul talks about this all the time. You have a lot of projects that's just waiting for a blow off top to release so that they can basically ride off the coattails of a lot of buying volume. So if you're a company that raised a bunch of VC capital, and these VCs have their fiduciary responsibility to get a return for their limited partners, you're not going to go on a Launchpad and allow people to buy it first, because you've already raised money. You know what I mean? So it's still going to be people raising VC capital that don't want to go the public route. But I think it'll just make it easier for people who maybe it's tougher for them to raise capital, or they want to go to market a little bit quicker, or they just want to launch a token that gets listed on Coinbase. So yeah, I think it is meeting a demand, but I don't think it's going to eradicate projects from launching a token without using the Launchpad, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah. So does that answer the question? Did you have any more you wanted to unpack on that?
Not at this point.
Okay. So let's keep going here. So we're going to talk about the behavioral design. And this is where Coinbase really sets itself apart. So their system, it includes built-in discipline at the platform level. So like we talked about, 6 months lockup for a project team so they can't dump early. And then anti-flip penalties for users who sell their tokens immediately after launch, which affects their chances of getting allocations in future sales. I don't know how they're going to police like who the same person is. Oh, KYC account. So it's not like you can just flip up a bunch of wallet addresses, which is good. Binance doesn't enforce these kinds of rules at all. Projects can choose to implement vesting on their own token, but there's no standardized platform-wide lockup or penalty system. And I think that's a big reason why the Binance Launchpad sales often see those dramatic price spikes right after listing, followed by, the price falling off a cliff. The demand is front-loaded by BNB holders looking for a quick flip, and the supply unlocks too fast, and there's no ongoing program to keep participants engaged for the next opportunity. So I think Coinbase has kind of learned from that, and their structures is built to encourage long-term participation, fairer access, and healthier token price behavior, which could make their Launchpad a game changer, especially for DeFi ecosystems like Base. So
also, if I could just tag in here, I think Coinbase has been smart to delay their Launchpad until now, because they've clearly been studying the market, studying how different platforms are creating Launchpad successfully and unsuccessfully. And as you mentioned, if there's no penalties on these BNB token launches, yeah, it's just a pump dump, and then it's like consolidation and hopefully return. But a platform that's been doing it really well is Virtuals. Now, have you seen much about the whole agent Launchpad?
Yeah, Tibber is the top agent launched on Virtuals, actually.
I know you're big into Tibber, but for anybody who hasn't really looked at like the whole Virtuals Launchpad, like with these Virgin points, like where you can accrue and accumulate if you don't sell your tokens, it kind of creates this incentive to hold, because the more tokens you get, the more allocation or more chance of an allocation for the next 10x token you receive. So it completely suppresses the sell pressure, and therefore the entire ecosystem looks healthier and can grow because people don't want to sell. They want to roll it on their good karma, their good behaviors into the next token.
Yeah, I mean, everything's kind of like a Ponzi in a way, to be honest with you. It's just a matter of how good the structure of the Ponzi is.
Yeah, well, I think Base, they've had a lot of time to study the market, see who's the best, and learn from them, and implement these penalty type tactics to disincentivize people that want to make a quick buck and go on to the next one.
Yeah, I agree. And first mover advantage is important, but sometimes it's not. Like, that's the same thing that happened with Facebook. Like the very first social media platforms that came out weren't the ones that were successful. You had Black Planet, which was very ghetto. You had Tumblr, you had MySpace, right? And then kind of like what Base did, they watch a bunch of people fail so they know like what works. Facebook came out and was the first successful social media platform. And a big reason why they did it was because they policed the community, right? And how they launched, like they launched in colleges one at a time. You had to have a .edu account to sign up. And then you didn't just have a bunch of PORN on there, for lack of a better word, right? Just a bunch of people naked posting all kinds of crazy stuff. People don't want their kids on that. People don't want to be on that. So same thing with YouTube. YouTube flags, you can't just post PORN on YouTube. Twitter, a little rambunctious, but hey, first mover advantage isn't always the right way. So yeah, like you said, Coinbase, I do believe they learn a lot from Binance. And I'm sure they learned a lot by launching Base. Like they did everything that Binance has done. Coinbase is kind of doing better. BNB launched the BNB token, right? Coinbase is going to launch their big Base token years after. BNB launched the BNB chain. Coinbase launched the Base chain way after. And now you have BNB. They already had their Launchpad. And Coinbase is doing it better again. So, hey, God bless them.
I'm here for it.
Yeah. So here, we're almost done with this and we'll get to some DeFi stuff here. So now we're going to talk about why this matters for DeFi on Base, DeFi and Base actually. So the first thing that's good. So a couple episodes, we already talked about how they're integrated with Aerodrome. Okay. So they can already, and also we have the Clarity Act that draws the line between what's a security and what's a commodity. The government shutdown put a stall on that. But now that it's opening back up, a lot of people think it's going to open back up tomorrow. It's not going to be closed forever. That's eventually going to get passed. A lot of people think it's going to get passed before Thanksgiving, which would be great because I really think we would have a blow off top. But Coinbase knows something that we don't know. Like they've been big in like the lobbying and like the political side of things and helping people get elected, right? They have a lot of leverage politically. So I think it was smart of them to integrate with Aerodrome so that whatever token's a security or a commodity, one can launch on Coinbase and one can be on Aerodrome. But no matter which one, Coinbase is making revenue off of both because they integrate it with them. And that also helps with this Launchpad as well, because now, when a token launches, it needs liquidity. And if it's a security and the Coinbase regular exchange can't handle that, it can be handled on Aerodrome. So now they're making market-making fees from all these tokens that are launching. So if Coinbase begins issuing tokens via its platform, many of these projects, like I said, they're going to need liquidity, trading pairs, and integrations. So that means that they already have that set up. So that's great. So yeah, so that just means more people are going to use Base smart contracts. A token is, you have Pump Fund. You can launch a token on Solana, right? It's easy. But now if it's super easy to launch on Coinbase, everyone is going to want to launch on Coinbase because they know it's going to be seen as more legit. Okay. Another thing, you have an institutional and retail on-ramp. This platform is going to open early token sales to U.S. retail investors in a regulated structure. So they'll be able to funnel new capital into crypto earlier in a token's lifestyle. And then for DeFi on Base, that means a better chance of day one liquidity, stronger listing expectations, and possibly better token economics for early participants. And just like the whole policing thing that they're doing, I'm not sitting up here saying that every token is just going to have like a strong support level as soon as it launches. but it's going to make it a lot better. And if people are making more money, they're going to want to invest more, and it's just going to cause a flywheel, right? And just increase in liquidity in markets. More than anything, you need liquidity. It's all about liquidity and supply and demand, in my opinion. Okay. The next one, governance and ecosystem growth. So with fair distribution, smaller buyers prioritize. Projects may have broader communities from day one rather than highly concentrated token holders. So it'll be easier to build out community. It'll improve governance, reputation, and network effects in DeFi and make DeFi more attractive. Okay. And it just sets a structural precedent. More compliant, transparent token issuance means better investor confidence for chains like Base. Now, last thing, caveats and risks, because we always got to talk about the risks. Nothing's all good, nothing's all bad. Just because a project participates on this platform doesn't guarantee long-term success, and it doesn't even guarantee that it can't be a scam, right? You have rug pulls where devs will just disappear, pull the rug, but you also have something called slow rugs, where they just take that looking rug and they're just pulling it out nice and slow, and it's almost like you're just doing like this. The thing like everything's going good, and then boom, next thing you know, you're on the floor. So soft rugs I can see soft rugs happening here. And then the next thing is listing guarantee helps, but liquidity and utility are going to be critical. We talked about the Clarity Act, but it hasn't passed yet, so there is a bit of a regulatory risk, right? So even with stricter rules, U.S. regulators could still classify tokens as securities depending on use case. So we do need the Clarity Act to get passed so we can have like full clarity, for lack of a better word, on that. And then lastly, being early in a primary sale is exciting, but flipping early, like I said, you can flip early, but you're going to be penalized. You're going to be penalized, but there are going to be some people who don't care, who are going to flip, and tokens are still going to drop. So you're going to have a lot of people disappointed, like, oh, I thought it was just going to go up. Just keep in mind, this is still a financial market where people can buy and sell. And just because it's on Coinbase doesn't mean anything. There are tokens that have been listed on Coinbase that went to zero. So that's it. Token Launchpad. I'm excited.